what industry is going to make the biggest impact? Not for me. I asked a question. So I acted. What I do is I got on Google and I pretended I was just his age. So it's his discovery. I go, where can I make the most money? And it said financial services. And then you do the deep dive on financial services, mortgage, real estate, insurance. And then I typed in, what makes the most millionaires? Came back insurance.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And then, and that's when I made the choice.
So you got pulled over on the way here?
I got pulled over.
What were you doing?
I have a 9:45 a.m. Discord call with all of my team, and I pushed the 9:15. I said, show up if you want to show you're hungry.
Yeah.
And I would drive. I was looking at the road, but I had the Discord so they could see me. and all of a sudden, I just get pulled, whoop, whoop. And I had no idea. My wife's like, oh my God, there's a law up here. You can't have anything, not even a coffee cup. Right?
Yeah.
And so he pulls me over, and the first thing I do is a little, and this is probably bad, but it's a little technique I have. I just try to talk to them.
Yeah.
I show my license, but I don't give my license. I try to do a deep discovery.
Okay.
Find out why is a police officer to begin with, to get to the heart of why you have to pull me over. And I get it. I was doing something foul. I was wrong.
So what'd you say to him?
Actually, I was like, hey, so here's the thing. I'm not from here. And I showed him my Waze. I said, my phone was on Waze. He goes, yeah, but there's a law. You can't do it. And I said, yeah, but this isn't my car. I don't know how to do that. I need to get here. And you know what I'm doing here? I'm making impact. There's Family First Life around the corner. They're inviting me up here to be on a podcast so I can share with them how it can change lives. I talked about my nonprofit. I pitched them for 5 minutes straight. I talked about changing lives and how I teach young kids that I make 25, 30, 40 grand a month. He laughed. He goes, man, I'm in the wrong job.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I'm glad you said that. Are you interested? And I said, I have a former police officer that works with me, and I pitched him on working here. And I just wanted to prove them in sales, is what we don't say, that guess what? I'm here on business. I know there's bad guys out there, but it's not me.
Right.
And he came back and he gave me a warning.
No shit.
It was really nice. Yeah.
Nice.
And I got it on tape too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Awesome. Yep. So you can use Family First Life to get out of your ticket. No, we're just kidding. We're just kidding. Only if you're John. So John, how long have you been with us now?
I've been with you with Family First Life since November of 2023.
Okay.
So a little over a year.
Got it. And you don't have an insurance background.
I do, a small tiny one. I've been in mortgages my whole life. In 2009, I was licensed just to do mortgage protection, but I didn't do much with it, right? What my real insurance experience was, and this was one of the reasons that attracted me to the company. When I was 15 years old, my mom got recruited into A.L. Williams.
Okay.
And so she's in A.L. Williams, and it's being Filipino, everything is a family job.
Yeah.
So I had a job. I was 15. So my job, I would get recruits. She put me at the bookstore at Barnes & Noble's in Providence, Rhode Island, and I would sit for people to go in the self-help section. So when they're looking for Zig Ziglar or Tony Robbins, they'd be like, oh my God, you're looking to change your life? I know somebody who's a millionaire and a multimillionaire. So we ended up under the Guerrilla region for A.L. Williams. We built one of the biggest organizations.
So you're over in Providence?
Providence, Rhode Island.
Did you grow up there?
Yes, 100%. When I pulled into the airport, I was like, there's two things I'm doing: New York System hot wieners and Dell's lemonade. Yep. That's what I'm doing. And it was freezing. It was like 9 degrees out. But
you were born in the Philippines, right?
Yep.
And you moved here about 3 years old?
When I was 3 years old.
Assuming you don't remember being
that's interesting. I do. So it's kind of weird to tell this story because it's not real for Americans, I think. But it's common. I was in my mother's stomach. There's 5 boys: Jerry, Julius, Jason, John, Josh. I was in my mother's stomach when
your mom liked Jay.
Yeah, God, it's so common, right? So they ended up petitioning to come to America, but I wasn't born yet.
Okay.
So when I'm born, I'm 3 months old. My mom and dad and brothers went to America. They left me with my aunt and uncle. It was my daddy OG, my mama Lilia, and they're my mom and dad. And at 3 years old, I remember my dad, who, thinking back, he looked like John Travolta from Staying Alive.
Yeah.
He had the big collars, and he's short, but I was shorter, right? I'm 3 years
so
old.
He was tall at the time.
I'm 3 years old, Mike, and he says to me, he goes, that's not your mom and dad. He says, I'm your dad, and I'm taking you to America.
Yeah.
And I woke up right from there. It was, to me, it was like, I was abducted.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I get that they're letting me do this, but I remember almost every instance of my life since then.
Really?
Yeah. So anyway, I'll tell you something interesting is that when I got here, my mom, we didn't connect because she didn't like that I wouldn't call her mom.
Okay.
Right? And she, almost like I was supposed to have some kind of maternal instinct, like I was an animal, right? Like I couldn't smell her pheromones, so I didn't call her mom.
Yeah.
And she would, now she was a school teacher in the Philippines.
Okay.
Catholic school teacher. She was
Hit you with the ruler?
Dude, she was able to hit other people's kids. What do you think happened to me?
Right.
So I think that's why I grew up tough too. But it was very, very, it was interesting because I woke up from that.
Got it. But your mom eventually ended up raising you.
Of course.
Now, how long did it take for you to, like, I guess, accept
call
your
her
mom as your mom? Yeah.
I mean, she beat me into it. So, I mean, by age 9, I was pretty much calling.
Okay.
No, it probably took me a solid year or so.
Got it.
Before I was calling her mom.
All right. So I'm reading it here. Your single mom raised you.
Single
so
mom.
dad was out of the picture.
Out of the picture completely.
So he took you here.
Yep.
Hey, I'm your dad, and then bounced.
That's it.
Got it. Mom raised you and 4 other kids.
Yeah, 4 other kids.
Your mom was an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, she had to be.
She was running a daycare business?
Yeah, I imagine, I look back now, and she passed away now 6 years ago.
Oh, sorry.
But yeah, so it was incredible to see that she could only do at-home things.
Okay.
So she ended up, she ran a daycare out of the house.
Yep.
She was a caterer to her last day. She was still baking cakes and phenomenal things. And she ran a store, a Filipino authentic store from the basement. And I just watched her be an entrepreneur. But in that, she ended up doing every network marketing thing you could imagine.
Okay.
So Tiara, Miracle Made, and that's how she found A.L. Williams as a marketing tool. And it's funny because when I look at my mentors today, and Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, and Trump, they wrote a book together, Why We Think You Should Win. And in it, it says you have to join a marketing company because it'll teach you self-development. It's a necessity.
Yep.
And I look back, and when I was 15 years old, starting with Think and Grow Rich, right, I got into—
You read Think and Grow Rich at 15?
100%.
Why? How did that even hit your radar?
Because, all right, so when I'm 9 years old,
Yeah.
I open the fridge 4 days in a row. There's no food. And it sounds like a cliche, but day one, I'm hungry. I'm literally hungry.
Sure.
And it was summertime, so there was no free lunch at school, right? So, by the 4th day, there's nothing but ketchup, mustard, and soy sauce. And we would mess around trying to make some soup out of ketchup. Kid you not, right? But then I said, you know what? Watching my mom work so hard, I said, I'm going to get to work. So there was an older kid, he had a paper route. So that got me into a paper, and I got into it. I'm 9 years old. I filed my first tax return. I made $11,000. I worked 20 hours a week at my Nelly's restaurant. I worked 20 hours a week at another restaurant, and I had 2 paper routes. So it's pretty incredible. My dad he did come around once every quarter, I would say.
Okay.
He used to be the comptroller for Goodyear National, so he was an accountant. So I remember him telling me, scaring the buzz out of me, that you better do your taxes. You don't evade taxes. So, but that got me into being able to develop myself. And when I was 15, through the idea that through self-development, you can make change. Because I realized at a young age, the world's not going to change.
Right.
I'm going to have to change. So through Think and Grow Rich, expanding my mind, that got me to every single, and the one biggest impact when I hit Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant, that was it for me.
Gotcha.
And in it, he talks about his 30-day personal power program. He talks about speed reading. He said John F. Kennedy was a speed reader. He'd eat a book a day. So I said, wait, I did the Evelyn Woods dynamic learning course. I started to learn how to speed read at 16. That's a practice, right? I get really good in about a year. And so what happens is I come across—
Use your finger?
I do. Oh, well, yeah, I used to.
Yeah.
I could use my eyes now.
Okay.
I started with the S first.
Oh, dude, I tried it. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not going to tell you I'm like some champion speed reader, but I read faster than I used to. Let's put it that way.
100%. And you could retain the information
Yes.
too. So then I sat there, and Thomas Edison, think about this. I related him so much. He had a paper route. I didn't know this. And he was he was the number 11th person to get a library card at the library. And he had nothing to do because the paper route was on a train. And the train would stop in the city. And then he had nothing to do but go to the library.
Okay.
He said he read over 10,000 books.
Wow.
And it helped him build the light bulb.
I bet.
So then I sat there. I go, well, this can't be hard. I'm 15, 16. And I'm like, I bet you if I read 1,000 books, I can become a multimillionaire. I got to number 660, like really consumed it. And I made my first million. So
How old were you when you got
I was
to
21.
21.
I made it close before then too.
Yeah.
And so many things, so much ignorance debt that we have to pay, so much that we don't know. We don't even know what we don't know.
Right.
But by that time I was 21.
Let's go back to the fridge. So 4 days in a row, you said no food. You're 9 years old.
Yeah, 100%.
How'd you go from there to, hey, I need to make some money, and then Think and Grow Rich, the book?
I was literally so hungry. My brain was like, okay, where's food at a restaurant?
Yeah.
And there was an older kid, David Souza, that worked at the restaurant.
Okay.
And David, if you're listening, you'll remember this. I asked him, I was like, how did you get in there? And he told me that they wouldn't hire me. I was too young. I went there anyway.
Yeah.
And it was serendipity. And so much of my life is serendipitous. There was a kid washing dishes. He literally got fired in front of me because he was incompetent. And I sat there and I was just there. And the owner looked at me, John Maeli, he looked at me and he's like, you're here for the job? I was like, and didn't even fill out paper. I just started washing dishes. Yeah. And midday, he was like, hey, break time. What do you want? He's like, you want a meatball sandwich? This is Chalkstone Avenue, Providence, Rhode Island. And I got a free meatball sandwich.
Wow.
I was sold. Yeah. I could still be working there today. I was sold.
That's awesome.
That was it. And so through that, there was like a law, I guess, back then. Kids couldn't work more than 20 hours. So I had 2 of those jobs, and I just kept working. Every moment that I had in life, I just kept working. If I wasn't physically working, I just kept reading. Yeah. I just kept reading. And that's
someone tell you about Rich Dad Poor Dad? How did you land on that one?
Rich Dad Poor Dad, by this point, I'm already there, so I just make it a point to, by the time I meet Rich Dad Poor Dad, it would have been actually late 20s.
Gotcha.
And I was just about to build one of my bigger companies because Family First Life for me is my 5th run at a fortune. And I tell people all the time, this is the biggest thing I've ever touched.
Okay.
The opportunity is greater than ever before. And I used to
What was the first thing you built?
It's always, I was 17 and I was, interesting. I was the youngest car salesperson at Century Mitsubishi.
Okay.
And like a fool I was, it was right here in Warwick, Rhode Island. And so they said, hey, John, take this Diamante down there, get rims downtown. And anyway, my brother Jerry's in the car, and I'm going 130 in the freshly salted snow. Anyway, the guy cuts me off. I tap my brakes. We're going backwards on 95. And I'm just looking at all these cars come at me, and I just make this split-second decision. I'm like, I probably should hit the wall than these guys. So I crank the wheel, hit the wall. Anyway, I'm 17. I call the sales manager. First call I made, I'm like, we crashed the car. And I thought I'd get fired, so I quit. I didn't know anything about like life. Like
quit before they could fire you.
I quit before they fired me. But anyway, I'm working out at Gold's Gym, and Eddie comes up to me, Eddie Cannell. He says, hey, John, my brother is an inventor. Great stuff. This guy, Dave Cannell, he invented the first 50-watt Tanny Boot light bulb. When you go into BJ's Wholesale Club, back in the day, like when you buy the hot dogs and the food, the fryolator, there's no duct. He created the in-duct fryolator system, right?
Got it.
But he's sitting at Federal Hill up there in Rhode Island, and this guy pulls in like a Ferrari. And he goes to the barkeep. He's like, Nino, who's that guy? He's like, he's so-and-so. He's like, what does he do? He goes, he's a mortgage broker. And so Dave Cannell, who's been a factory inventor this whole life, said, I'm going to be a mortgage broker. He didn't know anything about it. And so he ended up asking his brother, who's the best salesperson you know. And I had won like this car competition at 16 years old up there, 17. And he introduced me to him. And that's how I got in the mortgage business.
Got it. How'd you do in mortgages?
I didn't know that what you were and weren't supposed to do. So from start to finish, we were doing everything from loan packaging, everything. And I started, I started to make, I'm 17, $10,000 a month. And then back then, without inflation, I think it was like 20.
Right.
But he invited me to move to Florida. And then at 17, I moved to Lighthouse Point, Florida. And it was just that opportunity in financial services is what got me to realize that if I can use my hands, there's only so much I can create. But if I can use my mind and I could communicate, then I could actually impact a bigger audience.
Got it. And we're talking, was this early 90s?
This was it was the 1992.
Okay,
93.
so well before the mortgage crash.
Oh, yeah.
How long were you in mortgages for?
Oh, my God, I'm still in it today.
Really?
Yeah. So I ended up, today, I mean, I have a nonprofit. I help 50 families every month get into a house, no money down. But I ended up, I've never stopped. I mean, I love real estate so much, I've never stopped.
Okay.
Yeah.
How'd you make your first $1 million by 21?
It was because I couldn't work with Dave anymore because I wanted to move back up north. So I had to build my own company again. And when I did that, I took the same framework of what I've been doing, but I did it for myself. So I became an entrepreneur really big for the first time.
So you worked somewhere, had success, learned what to do, and said, you know what, I can do this myself.
Yeah, and it was scalable. I built a team, and it was scalable.
You came back to Rhode Island.
Yeah, I went upstate New York.
Upstate New York, gotcha.
But I came back in North, and I built that company, and then I've always been involved in mortgages. And financial services.
Got it.
You know?
And was it just, kicking ass every year from there on? Did you have any hardship? What was your worst year in mortgages?
We ended up growing to, I had the 5th largest correspondent. I matured from a broker to correspondent lender. So I was the 5th largest correspondent lender in the state of Florida. We had 500 full-time W-2 employees. I had 7 offices. And then all of a sudden, they changed the laws. The SAFE Act came out. We had the subprime mortgage crisis.
08, 09.
And so that was it. And so they changed the requirement for licensing. They changed. So a lot of my guys couldn't maintain their license. And so from there, I mean, going from that super high, that was probably the lowest that I'd been up until that point. From that super high. Yep.
And you raising a family at this time?
I was. I had my oldest, Andrew, Dan, and Megan. They were about between 7 and 11. And it was tough to go from the big house and all the cars all the way down to, I ended up moving to Tampa to try to save one of my offices and to scale down from that and for them to watch that happen. That was tough.
That's probably the worst because, like you said, you came from nothing.
Of course.
So it's kind of like, dude, I've been here, been there, whatever. But your kids didn't come from nothing. They're used to big house, whatever we want, we get type of stuff, right? What was that like to try to, not try to, but explain to your kids that, hey, we're going from here to here, and I don't know how long we're going to be here?
So watch this. I'm at the office, and there's a knock at the door. My son, he's 11. Andrew's 11. He calls me. He's scared. He's like, Dad, they're banging on the door really hard. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, And I could hear the guy screaming, I know you're home. We need the keys to the Hummer. Repo guy.
Wow.
Is I know you're home.
You're still in the big house at this point.
No.
Oh, you've already downsized.
Yeah. But we took the Hummer with us, right?
Yeah. So trying to hang on to something, right?
Yeah, right. So it's like they're banging on the door. And I remember, and I was an hour away.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. And then from that day, I said, listen, if you leave the house, I'm going to give you the car back. And I did. I drove, met him. But the point is, I came home that day and I said, there has to be a reason this is happening. Everything happens for a person that serves me. And what I realized was this. I used to joke all the time, these kids have never seen a bad day in their life. So now life's completely different. I took that as an opportunity to teach them grit.
Yeah.
Like this is the real world. This is what it's like. So from that day at age 11 years old, Andrew, Daniel, and Megan, so it's 11, 10, and 7, they could recite to you Rich Dad, Poor Dad's B&I Triangle. They did school papers, product, legal, systems, communications, cash flow. They started to literally, I had them run every business that you could online.
Yeah.
And that was I believe that was the reason, because I was meant to teach them how to do it. And that's what we did. And today, my number one soldier at the insurance agency is my son, Andrew. And for his work ethic, he's like me. He's up at 5, he's down at midnight. Sometimes we get 3-4 hours sleep, but what we're building is incredible. But his work ethic is what labeled him the nickname, the General. The team calls him the General because he works so hard, along with my son Dan and my daughter Megan. So
that's
100%.
Awesome. He's selling full time?
He is right now. He's at the place where he is managing full time.
Got it.
Like we are. He's everything. He's the backbone.
You're running your office.
Yeah, 100%. But we both did. We both sold. I mean, but in the capacity right now, we are in a place where I just think 2025 is just going to be so big.
Got it.
Yep.
Got it. I see you have some influences here. Jay-Z. Right? I'm sorry. No, that's not. Shaq. Shaq's an influence.
Shaquille O'Neal.
He inspired
100%.
you. How and why?
Well, because I'm sitting there and he does the Def Comedy Jam.
Yeah.
Right. So he has all these comedians, and I love to laugh. Right.
Yeah.
So putting on the Netflix, it's funny. People are like, you have this big movie room, and every time you're not working, you're an hour or so, because that's the time I turn my brain off.
Yeah.
So I'm watching him, and he's sitting in the audience, and it's actually his own. I saw the clip itself, I saw the show, but I also saw his interview after the show. And he sat there. He goes, the comedian said, if you're 40 years old, you've only got 20 good summers left. What are you gonna do with it? Wow. And Shaq's like, damn, I'm already past 40.
Yeah.
What am I gonna do? So that impacted me.
Right.
And so then I started to learn about nonprofits, and he had a big nonprofit. Mark Wahlberg has a good nonprofit. So I go, you know what gift do I have to give? So we opened a nonprofit. We help 50 families in Florida every month get into a house, no money down.
Wow.
And so that was a huge impact for me, because that's it's the gospel of wealth. This is, if you round this out, Andrew Carnegie wrote the Gospel of Wealth, and he says there's 3 parts of our life. The first third, we're earning. We're learning.
Yep.
The first third, we learn who we are. The next third, we earn. And if we get really good at earning, the last third, you become philanthropic because you can't take it with you.
Right.
And you take that wealth and you try to shape it in a way that impacts the people the most. And that's where I'm at today. That's the greatest driver of where I'm at today.
Got it. Love it. Go back to the mortgage crash. You downsize. You have a great perspective on it, you know. And I think this with anything, you can find a negative spin or a positive spin.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to teach my kids now. They're all into sports. And
Yeah.
you know how it is. You know, you win a game, everyone's on top of the world.
Yeah.
You lose, and it's this one and that one. And I'm like, hey, it's all about this.
Yeah.
And how you view it, what spin you put on it, if you will, right? How long did it take you to bounce back after the mortgage crash?
So the crash for me was actually 2013.
Okay.
That's when it happened for me. And so because it happened earlier, but I was able to survive. I took my savings. I just kept that company in business as long as I could.
So you did what you could to keep it afloat, but by 13,
100%.
it was just too much.
It was just too much. Yep. And so, and then by 13, I just, you know what? I've got a choice to make here. And I think right now I'm going to hang up the entrepreneur hat. And my entire life has been entrepreneurialism up until that point.
Yep.
But the one greatest skill I've always had is being able to connect with people. So I said, well, what if I just did that? And the first crazy idea I had by Grant Cardone said the 10X rule. So I looked around. Now I'm used to a certain lifestyle, right? So I'm like, okay, how could I get that income back? I couldn't find a sales job that would offer you more than $100,000 a year.
Okay.
So I interviewed and I got 10 sales jobs. That was my job. But my secret was like all work at home type stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, it was like from commercial real estate to selling carpets. I had 10 jobs.
What was the craziest thing you sold that like nobody would guess?
Oh, geez. It would be carpets.
Okay.
Door to door.
Yeah.
Boy, did this job suck. Brother.
How do you sell I feel like if you need a carpet, you just go get one. How do you sell carpets door to door?
Because this was a marketing company, and there's a little cartoon guy on TV, and they were like, I think it was, I forget the jingle, but it was like he rolled out the carpet, and if you call, you get 50% off.
Okay.
The sale was always liquidation. But then it was actually a phone room, and then it was a lead, and then you'd call that person back, and basically whatever carpet they could have gotten at Home Depot for X, you're trying to sell and add your commission to it.
Got it.
Right, for the service that I came out to your house.
Sure.
It was terrible. It was the worst. I mean, you want to talk about unqualified leads?
Yeah.
It was just terrible. So
Got it.
never do that again. But that was part of my 10.
Yeah.
And so in the running of that 10, I was able to find timeshare. And in timeshare, it was specific to just one-on-one sales. And when I got involved, I knew I'd be okay, but I did really well.
Yeah.
I did really, really well. And so I ended up retiring the last 10 years. I was W-2ing about $1.2 million a year.
Okay.
And the number, wasn't
salary plus commission, or
it was 100% commission.
100% commission.
It was 100%.
Okay.
They did a draw, but that was fake because
Got
they
it.
would just take it out.
Yeah.
They have to do that for because we're W-2'd. But I did that for about a decade. And in that, it's kind of funny because it's a different life. In that, it's crazy. Everybody's your competition.
Yeah.
So you're really focused on just what you're doing. Even though it looks like a team sport, it's not. But that's how I bounced back from the mortgage side. And then I ended up doing so well that I was literally working about 10 days a month. And really what's crazy is that if statistics-wise, right, if there's 100 people that could be met in a face-to-face presentation in that industry, if you could sell 20, you're really good. If you could sell 30%, then you're great.
Yeah.
I naturally stepped on board doing about 40 to 60%. And then I met my wife, Melissa. She's my soulmate. And I was introduced to her because she was the world's greatest closer at her company.
Yeah.
And then she came to our company. Now is the great closer.
Her company was timeshares as well?
Yeah, she was working for Starwood, which is Marriott, division of Marriott. So now I remember the day that she came on board. It was, can the number one closer of Marriott meet the number one closer here? And anyway, that's why our son Alexander is just crazy at 7 years old.
Yeah.
It was a dream come true. I fell in love with her that day. She thought I was crazy. I shook her hand. I wouldn't let go. And I said, I want to marry you. That day.
When you met her.
You want to hear something crazy? Check this out. So I don't know if this will make it, but I'll tell you the story. So one of the things you do is you do a ride along, right? You learn. But in our business, it's like a cardinal sin. Don't tape the guy doing the ride along, right? She had her phone in her pocket. So you literally hear me selling the customer and asking her out, selling the customer out. And then she exits the booth, right? Melissa exits the booth. And then the manager goes, what do you think about him? He's incredible, isn't he? She goes, no, that joker's crazy. She says that. So that's all on recording, which is funny. Great. Yeah.
That's awesome. Nowadays, if you ask someone that when you first meet them, you might end up in a lawsuit. You know? So we're not giving you that advice. Don't do that.
100%.
So you worked in this business 10 years, retired?
Yeah, I the last 10 years, and then I retired from there, and it was interesting because I was still doing it, right?
Yeah.
And then
you just retired full time.
Yeah, I retired full time,
Yeah.
and it was because so what I wanted to share that what happened was I was like a 60 to 80% closer. I met my wife; she's phenomenal. She could take. Like if I spend an hour here at this podcast, she can get it done in 5 minutes. Like she's just quick, right? And same results.
Right.
And so I learned, we shared each other's secrets. I learned how to be a better closer, and I'm almost past 85%.
Okay.
And then at the time, my son's 7, my mom had passed away, and she was the greatest social butterfly in the network marketing. She was the greatest sales gal I'd ever met.
Yep.
And I feel like from that day, it was the strangest thing. I went that year almost flawless. Every person I met, and these are people, if you know anything about timeshare, these are people that don't want to buy. It's not like you're walking a car lot, you want to buy a car. Not like you're shopping for a house. They don't want to buy. They're there for a free gift. And I'm almost 95%. And then somebody challenged me. They said, you think you could be 100%? And the last year I retired, I went from 12 months, 100%. Of every hand I shook, I sold for an average sales price of $85,000. And it was crazy. At one point, we got taken over by a big company, Hilton Grand Vacations, and they were like, wait, this guy. So they filmed me. They filmed 10 on camera where they got the customer sign a disclosure, I signed, and they filmed. My sales process is about 5 hours long, and I sold 10 out of 10 on camera.
Wow.
I know.
That's awesome.
It was a nice badge.
Why'd you retire?
Because my kids... Andrew worked with me at the company.
Yeah.
So we're kind of cut from the same cloth. My son, Dan, he's an actor, entertainer. Free plug for Dan. He's dropped about 400 songs on SoundCloud.
Oh, nice.
Right? So his mom is German, and I'm Filipino. He looks like he could be Eminem, right?
Yep.
So he dropped all these songs, and he's going through college. He's going through sound engineering, and then he ends up working at Bonefish, and he's just kind of watching the success that Andrew's having. I'm mentoring Andrew for about 4 years now, and he got serious with the girlfriend, and it was Christmas a couple years back. He says, I actually want to follow in your footsteps. I want to do what you do. And I thought about every business that you can be involved in. So at that moment, I realized, and I'd already been doing the nonprofit. I've had a lot of time to myself. I said, what industry is going to make the biggest impact? Not for me. I asked a question. So I acted. What I do is I got on Google and I pretended I was just his age to his discovery. I go, where can I make the most money? And it said financial services. And then you do the deep dive on financial services, mortgage, real estate, or insurance. And then I typed in, what makes the most millionaires? Came back insurance.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And then, and that's when I made the choice to come over to Family
Got it.
First
So
Life.
you already retired.
Yeah.
Trying to find something for your son that'd be lucrative.
That he could be good at, he could do good at.
Got it.
Which is fantastic.
So how did you end up here?
Well, I'm doing my deep dive. I see Sean Mikes. He was on. It was just a YouTube video.
Yeah.
He was on 8%er speaking about that.
Yeah.
And Sean, I watch his Millionaire, matchmaking show. All these different things. I'm just doing a deep dive on Sean, and then I realized Sean he gave up in a couple talks about Coach, the book written by Art Williams.
Yep.
And literally it was like a lightning bolt came through me. I was 15 recruiting people for then the Mark Grillo region out of here, Connecticut. And so it was an itch I was never able to scratch because I was too young and I got into other things. And what as I did that search bigger, I see that Jay-Z, Kevin Durant, Will Smith, and Robert Downey Jr., they invest $500 million into the technology so that we could go instant IUL. And as a mass market, I go, this is it.
Right.
Because I could teach this to Dan, and everyone knows this at the agency. Like, I could teach this to Dan, and you know what we did? I finally got licensed on board in December. We opened in January, and January, Dan did $35,000 in IP. In February, did the same thing, and he gets so excited. So I didn't know this at the time. He gets so excited. He'd been playing Grand Theft Auto game like all the kids, right? So he built a Toyota Supra online, and it was a big deal because I overheard the guys talking about it, and they said he sold that car for $1.3 million in
GTA money.
Yeah, GTA money, right? And the reason he did was because from his success, he was able to buy himself a nice yellow Toyota Supra. Yeah. So it was just like that.
That's awesome.
That was the biggest win for me,
Yeah.
knowing that I had started this organization to find him something to do. And then what happened was all of their friends from college. I got 2 engineers that worked there. I mean, they went to UCF. They're engineers. They got the offers for $130,000 a year. They're here now. And so we started that core group at my agency with the guys that were I coached them, right? In football, and so it was that love affair to make sure these guys make it.
Right.
And so that's
so
why
your son sold before you did.
Yeah, well, we both started at the same time.
Okay.
It was actually the company we all started at the same time. In fact, when we spoke to Sean Mikes over the phone, it was myself, Andrew, and Daniel. It was myself, Andrew, and Daniel. We spoke to Sean over the phone, and that was in November of 2023. Amazing. It was amazing, impactful.
Got it. And obviously, we talked about your numbers. I mean, you finished this year 920.
Yeah, you know what?
Shy of $1 million.
Can I ask you a question? Am I still number 11?
That I don't, well, I do know, but I can't tell you. You'll find out at annual convention when we hand out your award.
Okay. So I knew that I wanted to sell. I wanted to be busy working the business. No one knew this, but I made a private goal. Maybe I can get top 10. And I'm usually pretty good at hitting my goals. I thought I had it in the bag, and I think the last I checked in HCMS, it was like 2 weeks old. 2 weeks into December, I'm like 11. I'm short by 30,000. But what the cool thing is, going back to this opportunity, the contract is incredible. The commissions are incredible. The bonuses are incredible. So even though the IP was at 900, I deposited this year. ACH deposited $1.37 million from January 1st to December 31st. I think 87,000 of that was FFL bonuses. I've gotten Americo 10% bonuses, about $26,000. I mean, that's stuff that I didn't even expect. On top of the comp plan. So no, it's been a wild and crazy ride. It's probably I tell people this all the time. It's my 5th run at a fortune. It's the biggest thing I've ever touched. And if you're willing to work hard and you put in the work, you could get good results.
So you've been selling with us since 2023. It was towards the end of the year you joined
December.
us?
Literally, like the first day.
So I'm looking at 38K that year, which is a month and a half roughly, right?
100%.
And then this year, well over 920. Yep. What's your goal for 25?
Goal for 25 is we bought the building that we're in. Looks like Professor X Mansion, right? And so the goal for 2025 is I got capacity for about 150 seats, but I really want to scale right. Training is important to me. My training program is huge, and I want to make sure they win. I don't just want to grab anyone. I want to make sure they win. And so we've got 25 guys that plug in every day. I really think that every quarter, if we could add 25 guys that plug in, we could take the just under 600 we're doing as an agency and take that easily scalable. I'm saying it out there, but guys, we got to do 5 million every month. Yeah. No,
it's simple. It's not easy. Yeah. But you want to start 25, then recruit 75. Because 1/3 is going to just quit right off the bat. The other third is going to hang around. They're going to say all the right stuff, John. They're going to nod their head like you are right now, and they're not going to do shit. And then the other third is going to actually do something.
100%.
100%. What's your goal from a personal standpoint? Are you still selling personally next year?
No, from a personal standpoint, I want to do everything. So training's everything.
Yep.
Training's everything. So we do so many trainings, and I think that the agencies that train the most make the most for the individuals. My first goal when I meet somebody new is get them off to a fast start.
Yep.
I got to get wins in their pocket as soon as possible. My second goal is to teach them how to deal with the numbers, the metrics, how they deal with their own business from marketing all the way down to chargebacks and debt. And if you can master that, which is, by the way, that's the holy grail of business, isn't it? Yep. How to get past that holy grail. Because if you bought a Dunkin' Donuts franchise, they're going to require you during COVID. What did you do?
Yep.
Okay. So what do you do in business when something happens and you're shut down? You're still paying that lease.
Absolutely.
You're still paying that rent, right? So those things are a necessity. And what I find interesting about this opportunity is that we could take people who have a mindset where they're a wage earner, and we can convert them little by little into an entrepreneur.
Right.
But that is right there. That's the challenge.
Got it. In the year plus you've been with us fully in this business, right? I know you started a little bit when you were 9, but what's the biggest thing you learned? What's the biggest lesson you've learned over the last year and a half?
I'll tell you what, marketing has changed. And today, marketing is all about bringing value.
Right.
And you think about who taught that. It's like nobody pays for a Gmail account.
Right.
Right. And these things, and so more and more now, everyone's giving out keys for absolutely free.
Right.
And you look at that, and let's say you're an author. Let's say you're a Tony Robbins or a Grant Cardone or a Rich Dad Poor Dad. You want to obviously sell your books and tapes, but today you're being outcompeted, or people that are competing today are literally giving out whole systems that I might have gone to a seminar in the past, spent $10,000, $15,000 to learn that. They're giving the entire thing away for free. And so the thing that I learned big, and starting with Family First Life, this show, True Talk, Grady Polson's show, all of these top producers coming together.
Yep.
I built my entire company around. In fact, I tell people, when you first got on board, your first bit of homework, I want you to prove to me that you've done 30 hours worth of FFL videos,
right?
Because they're all there.
Yeah.
And so what I learned the most is that without thinking about it, we've got to give out as much as we can. And so that's what we do.
Love it. We had a couple segments we're going to wrap with. So personal development, we've touched on it. You've talked about Kiyosaki. You've talked about a handful of books. But if I said to you, John, give me your top 3 books, your personal favorite books, what are they?
The seed that planted it all has to be Think and Grow Rich.
Yep.
And I know that people, it's just an older book, but it is the book. I feel like that's a seed that planted everything. So in order, Think and Grow Rich. And what that does is that expands your mind.
Yep.
So if I've never done it before, I've got to expand my mind. From there, I need actionable action. Not a book, a program. Tony Robbins' 30-day personal power program. I actually have done the entire program, all 30 days, at least 5 times in my life.
Okay.
And you want to talk about ups and downs? One of the things I didn't include, every time I find myself on a lull, I do the program all over again.
Got it.
From start to finish. And I don't cheat because he makes you do homework, and that's a terrible part, right? And then from there, I would say once you learn those 2 things, then you have to learn how to sell. And if you want to know how to sell, there's one book. It's by Grant Cardone. I got to meet Grant Cardone. Great guy.
Yeah.
It's the Closer Survival Guide.
Okay.
And in the end, there's over 100 closes. I think you only need 10.
Yeah.
I use 10 that you incorporate, that becomes a part of you. And if you do those 3 and you believe in yourself, there's no reason why you can't have massive success.
Got it. Okay. Outside of those books, what's a book that every new agent should read?
Every new agent today, Gosh, there's so many, but I'll give you the one that's most impactful. Chop wood and carry water.
Okay.
100%. Chop wood and carry water. It's a story about a boy that learns how to be a samurai. And in it, the most important prefaces are, and a lot of times today, so many different bits of information are rehashed. It's somebody relevant today, because that's the point. Success is success.
Correct.
But it's somebody that's relevant today telling their version of the story, right? And their version of the story is that it is definitely you that's developing, and it's the process of that boy becoming a samurai. And it's you got to chop wood, you got to carry water, and no one can do it for you. Right?
Absolutely. Same question, but for an agency manager.
Okay.
So they're building an agency, they're at that level. What's a good book that they should read?
The number one book I would recommend would be The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. Okay. Now, you're going to have to wipe some dust off on that, okay?
All right.
Because I've done a bunch in my life. So I used to belong to the People's Network, which was
you have to go to that Thomas Edison library.
Yeah, so because what it does is it clearly, and for a leader, it clearly breaks down even deeper than Robert Kiyosaki. It breaks down franchises and how you need to run your organization as if it was a franchise. Because if you think with the end in mind, imagine this. If you think about creating a perfect business that somebody else on the outside can open that book and be like, okay, I know how to do, all the way down to who gets the mail here.
Yeah.
That question has to be answered today. And that's why a lot of managers fail, I think, because they're not seeing the full picture.
Correct.
Who turned the lights on here?
Yeah.
Right? Who opened up? Like, every bit of it's important. So if you think about who's the chief cook and who's the bottle washer, who's in between, even though you don't have that employee today, you have to be able to plan for that.
Absolutely. I always tell you guys, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.
Bingo.
Right? I can go get the mail.
Yeah.
I'm not ever going to get the mail, John.
Yeah.
Never once.
You never got the mail here, not once.
Okay. Nah, and I'm not going to start today.
There you go.
And it's not because I'm above. It's just, hey, like you said, there's a job for everyone.
100%.
And I don't bring much value in going to get the mail.
100%.
There's people that do.
Yeah.
You know, like having this all set up.
Yeah.
Just because you can doesn't mean you can. Yeah, absolutely, dude.
You came in like Taruk
I left the meeting to come here. What do I, not do the meeting to come set up the lights?
Of course.
Videos or podcasts that you listen to on a regular basis?
That's interesting because I would say today my entire life is consumed by you guys.
Yeah.
By FFL. You got to plug into a culture, and look, we all got opportunities, right? But and I consider myself an avid finder of opportunity. And if I did one thing right, it was finding the fact that we have a company with the absolute highest comp. And I'm not saying that, I mean, I know this is a podcast, but I'm just telling you my journey. The contract's already set up. The way's already there. And again, as a collective, as a living, breathing thing, the amount of content that's online for Family First Life is unbeatable.
Right.
And I could tell you for a fact, not having any experience doing what I'm doing right now, I wouldn't have gotten a 2024 that I have without that. Right. So, and that's why I tell people when you drive to work, you come back, and I'll always find good either pieces or podcasts that we'll send out.
Yeah.
Right. And say,
you showed me before we got on a marketing video you guys did, and you're talking about training and podcasts, and we have probably hundreds or even thousands of hours of archived content, and we have the top guys come up. Like, I mean, truth be told, the whole reason you came up are your numbers.
Of course.
Right. We learned about your story after the fact, but
your
numbers. But I have people that instead of doing marketing videos and try to recruit more people, they spend time building their own training library. And it's like, guys, it's already there.
Why?
You're just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. You're devoting time that you could be selling, recruiting, or pointing them. We just did a last week's podcast with Sean. We were talking about convention. What's one of the biggest attractive factors of convention for agents is if I'm an agency manager and you work with me, I can have you go to this event and be trained by everybody else.
Yes.
It's less I have to do.
100%.
And it's the same thing with we have it here. Why, I want to do my version. It's like, God, dude. Like you said earlier, it's not anything new. You're just rehashing what somebody said here, what somebody said last
100%.
week. But it has to be you.
But I think that comes down to personality.
Absolutely.
So there's 5 different I like the PSI-Power method. There's a synthesis. There's the idealist, the pragmatist, the analyst, the realist, right? And the synthesis, if I walked in here and said it was cold, and then the synthesis would say it was actually warm. But if I could rewind time and I said it's warm, they'd say it's kind of chilly. They live their life by just everything's different, right?
Yep.
The idealist is that big tree hugger, right? They care about that tree getting chopped down by the big developer, right? I find that synthesis and idealists don't make it in a sales culture.
Correct.
And then the PAR, PAR, being pragmatic, doing whatever it takes to get done, being analytical, and knowing what you have, and then being a realist about what's in front of you, that's the most successful. But I think what happens is the guys that come in this business, and it's heavily weighted. I say this like this. PAR is what you need to be. You need to be pragmatic. You need to be analytical. But if I could break it down, you need to, in my opinion, be 80% pragmatic. Spend less than 5% analyzing, and then that 15% of the time is being realistic about what's around me, my research, right? The people that do what you're talking about, and we have tons of them, is I think they spend 80% of the time being analytical.
Correct.
But being analytical, it's kind of like this. It's a fake objection, right? Being analytical is just another way that they could be in their room. Let's say it's a guy. They could be in the room and the wife thinks they're working because it looks like they're working, but it's busy work. That would be like if we opened this office and we were shopping for plants.
Correct.
Right? And we could be making all the decisions on the ficus plants that are fake, that are $500 that we put in the corner, but it's not going to make us any money. And that's what it is. I think that people, it's another objection. Yeah, it's busy work. It's an objection. When the most important thing that every single person needs to do, in my opinion, is to just literally get on the phone and make connections with brand new people and keep do an income producing activity. Keep having the conversation with somebody, a stranger. Everything we don't have, we're going to get from a stranger, right? So keep having that opportunity to have the conversation with someone who doesn't know you, to introduce them about insurance, right? So that's goal one. Then goal two for me would be taking that person that you've already impacted with insurance and then finding out if we can impact them with either an opportunity to recruit them or an opportunity to meet their friends and family, because I believe in what we do. The best, it's our product, especially today with what we do. And I didn't touch on this. I am so passionate about Index Universal Life. That's what I promote the most. And to me, it's the perfect product because you're going to use it in life and you're going to use it in passing. And it really does do everything it was meant to do. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's, income producing activities you mentioned, and you're doing two of them. You're either doing something that's making you money now or it will make you money in the future. And you're like, well, Mike, I'm training the agents. Do we have, I think, 150 Hall of Fame producers this year?
Let them train them.
I don't think we need more training from, it's there.
Yeah.
Now, go kick ass, we'll have you come up and do some training.
Yeah.
But spend your time, I love that you spent the time making that marketing video to bring people in instead of going, this is my version of the True Talk play. This is my,
no.
We have it already.
100%.
Do a marketing campaign, bring some people in, and then point
that's
them to the training that's there.
Do. Point and click. 100%.
Like you mentioned, so huge.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, last piece. True or false? I'm going to throw a handful of statements at you.
Okay.
And you're just going to let me know, in your opinion, if they're true or false, John.
And we're on True Talk. So
we're on True Talk, so don't lie. We'll know.
Let's go.
All right, number one, personal development is overrated.
Absolutely false.
All right. Life insurance is the best industry for entrepreneurs.
1,000% true. Even chat says that.
If you're rejected by clients, you should quit.
It depends on who you are. But no, absolutely. That is false. You got to keep going.
You have to have a college degree to be successful in
absolutely
sales.
False.
Not everyone has a purpose or calling in life.
Absolutely false.
You should avoid breaking rules in life.
No, you have to break rules.
You have to.
You got to disrupt, even if on a simple level.
Yep.
Even if you're leaving your wage job, your salary job, you're breaking a rule that maybe you were taught or you thought you had to do. You got to disrupt for yourself first. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't be in this chair right here with interviewing you if we didn't break a bunch of rules.
Yeah, 100%.
We were told that the comp we had was the best out there. There's nothing else out there. This is the best opportunity you're going to have, and we have to charge you for this, and we have to do this and that, and it was all bullshit, for lack of better words.
Wow, this is True Talk.
Yep.
I could have swore the whole time.
You could have, yeah.
Darn it.
Yeah. And then you say darn it. But I appreciate you coming up doing this. I really do. We'll see you at convention in a few days here. And at that point, you'll find out where you play. So I can't tell you here.
Fantastic.
But keep kicking ass, dude. Appreciate what you do. Guys, hit subscribe if you haven't already. Let everybody know where to follow you on social. _
JOHN Pineda, PINEDA _ John Pineda.
Got it. There you go. We'll appreciate you again. Guys, hit subscribe. Share this with your team. Hopefully, we'll see you in a few days at annual convention. And you know where to find us every week right here on True Talk. We'll see you next week.